Tier 1 is not a smartphone. It is a smartphone-shaped object that exists to make phone calls, send texts, and keep you from looking completely off the grid at a dinner table. It will do all of those things. It will also remind you, constantly and without apology, that you spent $150. Who buys a Tier 1 phone? Let me paint you a picture. This is the teenager whose first phone got dropped in a lake during a camping trip that they weren't supposed to go on. This is the immigrant who just landed in a new country, needs a working SIM in the next 4 hours, and has no intention of overpaying for the privilege. This is the parent who bought their kid a $700 phone, watched it shatter in 6 weeks, and decided the replacement budget would be a lesson in consequence. Motorola Moto G05 and the Samsung Galaxy A06 own this tier, not because they are good, but because they exist at this price and almost work. Here is what you actually get: a MediaTek Helio G85 or Unisoc T606 processor, which sounds like someone naming a chip by randomly pressing keys and going with the first result. 8 GB of RAM if you're lucky, 6 if you're not. A 50-megapixel main camera that produces photos that look fine in a message and collapse the moment you zoom in on anything. A 5,000 mAh battery, which is the one genuinely good thing about this tier, because the hardware is so underpowered that the battery lasts 2 days without trying. And a 6.7-inch LCD display with a 90 Hz refresh rate, which means it scrolls smoothly on the home screen and then struggles the second you open a game. What you can actually do: send messages, make calls, navigate with Google Maps, watch YouTube at 720p, take photos of your food that look acceptable until anyone examines them. Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok, all run. They run the way a car runs when you haven't serviced it in 4 years. Technically forward, with occasional hesitation and a noise you've decided to ignore. What you cannot do: use multiple apps simultaneously without something being killed in the background. Take a photo in low light without the result looking like the scene was lit by a single candle at the end of a long corridor. Run anything released in the last 2 years without reading it, saying, "Your device may not support all features," which is the software equivalent of a polite rejection. The cameras are not cameras. The cameras are optical devices that capture light and produce a file that resembles a photograph, the way a drawing of a sandwich resembles lunch. They're not nothing. They're just not the thing the spec sheet implies they are when it says 50 megapixels in bold text. But here is the part that matters. The difference between a working phone and no phone is enormous. This phone keeps you connected. It gives your kid a device for school. It gets you through the next 3 months while you save for something better. That is the entire job of Tier 1, and it does that job every single day. Tier 2, the budget all-rounder. Tier 2 is where dignity returns. This is the first phone you buy without apologizing for it. The Tier 2 buyer usually falls into one of 3 categories: the person who could spend more but genuinely does not see the point, the person who is coming from a flagship 2 cycles ago and wants something new without the flagship price, and the person who read 14 comparison articles, watched 9 YouTube videos, and ultimately decided that spending $350 on a phone is the most rational decision a human being can make. And they are not wrong. The Google Pixel 9a and the Samsung Galaxy A55 own this tier, and they own it in completely different ways. The Pixel 9a is a philosophical statement. Google takes its Tensor G4 chip, which is the same processor family that runs its flagship phones, and drops it into a $499 body with a flat display and a polycarbonate back. The camera system, which is a single 48-megapixel main sensor, produces images that embarrass phones at twice the price. Not because the hardware is better, but because Google's computational photography software is doing things in real time that most manufacturers haven't figured out yet. Night sight, magic eraser, photo unblur, these are not features that exist on paper. They change the photos you get back from real moments. The battery lasts a full day without anxiety. Updates are guaranteed for 7 years, which means you can buy this phone today and it will be receiving security patches when you are already thinking about what comes after it. The Galaxy A55 takes the opposite approach. Bigger display, more RAM, a dedicated ultra-wide camera, and Samsung's One UI, which is the most feature-complete Android skin available, and also the reason some people avoid Samsung entirely. If you have ever wanted a phone that does more things than you will ever actually use, the A55 is the phone for you. 1080p displays that look genuinely good. Main cameras that produce excellent results in daylight and acceptable results at night, fast enough that apps open immediately. Gaming is possible at medium settings. Battery life is a full day without negotiation. What these phones cannot do: match a flagship in low-light photography, handle sustained gaming sessions without thermal throttling, or run the most demanding camera modes at full speed. They try. They just run slightly out of breath at the end. But someone asks what phone you have and you answer without dropping your voice. Tier 3, the Goldilocks zone. Tier 3 is the tier where the hardware gets out of the way. You stop noticing load times. You stop noticing the camera hunting for focus. You stop choosing between battery life and using your phone the way you actually want to use it. The device disappears into the task, which is the only thing a tool is supposed to do. The person who buys at Tier 3 has money, just not unlimited money, and they have opinions. They spent 2 weeks deciding between Android and iOS. They have a preference about aspect ratio. They know what an f1.7 aperture means and why it matters in low light. They feel strongly about something specific, probably the camera, and they built their shortlist around it. The iPhone 16 and the Google Pixel 9 are the gravitational centers of this tier. The iPhone 16 runs Apple's A18 chip, which remains one of the fastest mobile processors produced by any manufacturer. Not slightly faster, not marginally ahead in certain benchmarks, measurably faster in sustained real-world tasks in a way that other manufacturers are quietly aware of. The camera system is a 48-megapixel main sensor paired with a 12-megapixel ultra-wide, and the computational photography pipeline turns raw sensor data into images that are routinely used for professional content. The display is Apple's Super Retina XDR panel, 460 pixels per inch, 2000 nits of peak brightness in HDR. It is not OLED leading in 2026, but it is among the best displays available on any device at any price. The Pixel 9 offers Google's most refined Android experience, the best Android camera system available, and 7 years of software updates on a body that is smaller and more pocketable than most competitors. Its Tensor G4 chip trails the A18 in raw throughput, and it doesn't matter for anything a human being does with a phone on a normal day. 1,440 P-class displays, triple cameras with genuine optical zoom, all-day battery with fast charging, photographs that you look at and think are better than you remember the moment being. You take a photo of something you love, and it looks the way you wanted to remember it. That is the quiet miracle of Tier 3.